No, I didn't forget. I wanted to get the capital stuff out there because this is a big day for that team. I tell you, the day after the night it happened. But I've got the finalists, and today it's the 2010 Philadelphia Flyers, or as I called it, my least favorite playoffs in the history of playoffs. Um, and it's not Philly's fault. I'm going to say that straight up. It's not Philly's fault. Of the final four teams that remained, Philly was the one that I was like, well, if they win it, I'm okay with that. But there were some weird narratives that came out of their run. In the first round, they played against New Jersey. They win 2-1. They lost 5-3. They won 3-2 in overtime. They won 4-1. They won 3-0. Jersey's out in five. So that was kind of a surprise that not only did they take New Jersey out, they did it with goaltending of Leighton and Boucher, and they did it in five. So surprises there. Second round, Boston, and this is where I, as a fan, decided, yeah, I'm done with these playoffs. Um, Boston wins 5-4 in game one. They won game two 3-2, and they won game three 4-1. They're up 3 games to nothing. So what happened? What happened was game four. Game 4, the Philadelphia Flyers won it 5-4 in overtime. And I remember going to coworkers the next day and saying, Boston's going to blow this. People are like, what are you talking about? Teams don't blow 3-0 series lead. And I'm like, that was a big momentum shift. And I thought that there was a game or two at the start of the series that Boston won that maybe they shouldn't have. And it always makes me nervous when I see a team winning games they shouldn't, because things have a way of evening out. Game 5, 4-0 win for the Flyers. And full on panic for me as a Bruins fan at that point. And again, I'm still being told it's not gonna happen. And then game 6, they lost 2-1. The Flyers forced a game 7, and then in game 7, Boston had a 3-0 lead, and the Flyers won it 4-3. And yeah, I was like, I think I'm done with these playoffs. I remember watching the Philly Montreal series because everybody knows my love of Montreal knows no bounds, and in this playoff series, I wasn't disappointed. Philly wins the first two games by shutouts, 6-0 and 3-0. They lost game 3 5-1. They won game 4 3-0, and they won game 5 4-2. Now, when they reached the final and they're against Chicago, who has Antti Niemi as their starter, the whole narrative was simple. Oh, teams are paying for big name goalies. You don't need a big name goalie. You just need goalies. It doesn't really matter. Just you can throw anybody in net and get to the Stanley Cup now. This is the new template. Niemi, Leighton, Boucher. These guys are not big names. So all these teams that are paying big money for goaltenders, they're crazy. You shouldn't pay big money for a goaltender. Just trade off your goaltender and pick up whoever in net, because it doesn't matter. You don't need a big name goaltender. This was the mentality. In the finals, things got kind of ugly for that Philadelphia goaltending. They lose 6-5 in the first game. They lost 2-1 in the second game. They win 4-3 in overtime, 5-3, 2-2 series tie. Great, but they lost 7-4 in game 5. And then, of course, famously, the goal nobody saw in game 6, Chicago wins that one in overtime 4-3. And I didn't see it. I didn't see it go in, and a lot of people didn't see it go in, and that was the end of the run for Philly. And if Philly had won that game 6, I think they would have won it in 7. I do. I think Philly would have won it in 7. I think their penchant for comebacks was huge, and I think they would have won that one in 7 had they forced a game 7. But again, here we are. It's the finalist series, and Philly's up here again. So Philly's one of those teams that they've been very close to getting over that hump since that 1975 Stanley Cup. They've been there numerous times in the finals, and they've just been unable to take that last step in the Stanley Cup. And they had a good team, and I really think if they'd had a better goaltender, and it's just me, I know, but I really think if they'd had a really solid starting goalie, I think they win this series. Scoring-wise, Daniel Briere led the way with 12 goals and 18 assists. He was a monster those playoffs. Mike Richards, 7 goals, 16 assists. Claude Giroux, 10 goals, 11 assists. Ville Leino, 7 goals, 14 assists. Leino's playoff performance raised the bar, and he got a big contract out of it, and he wasn't able to perform to that contract. Chris Pronger, Hall of Famer, that's why there's the green blob next to his name. 4 goals, 14 assists for Chris Pronger. as he almost added another Stanley Cup to his resume. Scott Hartnell, 8 goals, 9 assists. Matt Carle, 1 goal, 12 assists. Simon Gagne, 9 goals, 3 assists. Kimmo Timonen, a goal and 10 assists. Jeff Carter, 5 goals and 2 assists in 15 games. So there was injury in that too. Aaron Asham, 4 goals, 3 assists. This guy, James Van Riemsdyk, 3 goals and 3 assists. Dan Carcello, 2 goals and 4 assists to round out their top scorers. And in net, the aforementioned Michael Layton, who was 8-3 with a 2.46 goals against, 916 save percentage. And Brian Boucher, 6-6 with a 2.47 and a 909 save percentage. You'll notice these save percentages much lower than other goalies we talked about before, even though they have some shutouts in there. There were 4 shutouts in all. No, 5. They had 5 shutouts in those playoffs. So out of 14 wins, 5 of them are by shutout, and they still ended up with save percentages that were kind of middling. So, again, the narrative coming out of this was you don't need a great goaltender, but I really feel like if they'd had a goaltender capable of playing well for more than just a couple of games before they'd have to switch out again, I really think they could have gone a lot further. I mean, look, they were 0-3 against the Bruins, and they won 8 of 9. And, you know, it was quite the run they went on. But in general, when you look at it, it was easy in 2010 to say, hey, we don't need a great goaltender anymore. I don't need one. Just 2 decent goalies will do it. It wasn't really that simple. And the semifinals that year were rough for me because it was Chicago and San Jose. And, of course, Chicago, due to them knocking out the Canucks, I didn't want to see them win. San Jose, well, I've never been a big fan of San Jose since about 2000. And Philly, who I'm kind of in the middle of the road on, and then of course everybody knows how I feel about Montreal. So yeah, that Final Four was like, wow, anybody I might have cheered for has been knocked out. This is so eye-opening. So there you go, the 2010 Stanley Cup finalists, the Philadelphia Flyers. Another example of how close Philadelphia gets. Maybe they're the next one to break through that glass ceiling and win a Stanley Cup. Maybe now that the Capitals have won, maybe now teams like this are going to say, hey, we can win one too. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. This has been the Finalists, Philadelphia Flyers.